أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. We discussed verse number 60 where the story of Musa and Khizr started. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبة. Musa told to his servant that no matter how long we go, I will go until I find the confluence of the two seas, or we go forever. Now, verse number 61, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَجْمَعَ بَيْنِهِمَا نَسِيَا حُوتَهُمَا فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا. When they reached the confluence between them, they forgot their fish, which found its way into the sea, sneaking away. Now, one question is, Musa alayhi salam was saying that I will go until I reach Majma' al-Bahrain, the confluence of the two seas. However, this verse says that when they reached the confluence of the two seas, they stopped for a while, they forgot their fish, and they carried on. Why Musa did not stop here looking for that man, which was to be found on confluence of the two seas? The reason, as I said, is that probably there were many confluences of the two seas there. It was a place where there was much water, and waters meeting other waters. He wanted a sign to be seen. Maybe some exegetes say that that sign was that they lose or they just forget their fish and cannot find it. However, that is not that is something which is very, very difficult to imagine, that you are just looking for a place where you lose your fish, for example, a fish that you are carrying with you, whatever fish it is, and then when you lose it, you forget it. That's not possible. As I said, the best explanation is that they were looking for a sign. They didn't know what sign it is. They were told, Musa was told, that when you come to the confluence of the two seas and you see a sign, there you can find that man at that place. Now, when they reached the confluence of these two seas, they forgot about their fish. Why they forgot about their fish? Because they were carrying this as food, and apparently there Musa alayhi salam was asking his servant to prepare the fish to eat, and that was a salted or a smoked fish, something like that, because if they wanted to carry a fresh fish, it would have been rotten. So a salted or a smoked fish they were carrying. And at this point where Musa alayhi salam asked his servant to bring the fish, probably the servant washed the fish to prepare it, but something happened, maybe a storm or something, so they forgot the fish and they just went. Or probably the sea came up or whatever. So something happened, they had to leave forgetting the fish. And both of them forgot the fish. The fish was being carried by the servant, but both of them forgot. Nasiya hutahuma. They both forgot their fish. It means that they were actually preparing to have the fish as a meal or something. However, Musa forgot that he was waiting to eat. The servant forgot what had happened. The servant saw something very, very strange, but he forgot it. So, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَجْمَعَ بَيْنِهِمَا نَسِيَا حُوتَهُمَا. They forgot their fish. Now, something very strange about this fish happened. The sign they were waiting for. But Musa didn't see that. The servant see it. The servant forgot to tell it to Musa. Musa forgot that they were going to eat the fish or whatever. So they both forgot about it and went, passed by. فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا. the fish sneakingly, or just as any fish which is sarab, may mean just to go as a matter of course, or means to go in a strange, sneaking way. So the fish just, when it was washed, and maybe there was a storm or some sort of wave surfs coming, and they took the fish to the sea, and the fish was alive and went. This is what most of the exegetes have said. However, Allama Tabatabai says these verses don't allude to the fact that the fish was alive when it went. It was just dragged into the sea. But because they were looking for a sign, I think what the traditions say, and most of the exegetes say, is correct, that yes, the fish actually found life. The smoked fish found life. And it started to move away and go. فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا. Now, فَلَمَّا جَاوَزَا, when they passed, قَالَ لِفَتَاهُ آتَنَا غَدَاءَنَا لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِنْ سَفَرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. When they passed, Moses said to his lad, bring our meal. We have certainly encountered much fatigue on this journey of ours. Much fatigue means that, as I said, something happened, a storm or something, that they could not stand there under that rock. The sea was having very great waves, for example, so they ran and came. So, فَلَمَّا جَاوَزَ, when they passed, Moses said to his fatah, to his lad, to his servant, آتنا غداءنا, bring us our food. That's smoked fish. Now, did they have only one smoked fish with them all through this long journey? Of course not. This shows they had prepared this food. They wanted to eat it. However, the storm did not allow them, or something which we don't know what it was. So they rushed running. And then after this very, very fatiguing travel, after running from the rock, Musa asked for the food. Atana qada'ana. Indeed, in this journey of ours, after passing from the rock, لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِنْ سَفَرَنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. This was a very, very tiresome journey. Now, here the servant remembers something very strange happened there. When I was preparing the fish to eat, the sea took the fish, of course, because of the storm, the water took the fish into the sea, and very strangely, the fish became alive and went. And I forgot to tell this to Musa because of the, of course, force of the situation probably. As I said, something had happened that they couldn't stay there and they had to run. قال أرأيت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره واتخذ سبيله في البحر عجبا. He said, what do you say about this very strange thing? Ara'ayta means something very strange happened. And I forgot to tell you about that something very strange, that very strange thing. When we took shelter at the rock, indeed I forgot about the fish. I forgot to tell you that the fish was taken to the sea, it became alive, and now he's actually retelling the story. Of course, only Shaitan made me to forget this, because this was not something to be forgotten. It was very strange. وَمَا أَنْسَانِهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانَ أَنْ أَذْكُرَهُ فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ عَجَبًا. And it made its way into the sea in an amazing manner. Now, in the previous verse, Allah said, فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا, just as a course of travel. The fish took its route into the sea, because it's not, of course, ajab for Allah. It's not marvel for Allah to make that fish alive and go. It was a marvel for human beings to see something like happen. So here it says, فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ عَجَبًا. It was ajib. It was very strange, amazing. But for Allah, of course, it says it was something, as a matter of course, the fish became alive and went, for example. Saraba. Now, of course, this was the sign. They didn't know what sign they are going to see in the confluence of the two seas. They were looking for another confluence. However, now Musa remembers, now Musa realizes that this was the sign, so they have to go to that place. Now, a couple of things in this verse. First of all, أَرَأَيْتَ إِذْ أَوَيْنَا إِلَى الصَّخْرَةِ We took shelter. So apparently, as I said, something had happened. They had to take shelter under a rock, huge rock, and even there they were not safe, so they had to move quickly, and they forgot the fish that they had prepared to eat. The situation was so tense that the very amazing thing this servant saw, he even forgot about that, and they both ran and went from that rock. And the servant says something very strange here. وَمَا أَنْسَانِيهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ أَذْكُرَهُ Nothing but shaitan made me to forget and not to remember. Forgetting to mention. Nothing but shaitan made me to forget to mention it to you. Now, what does this mean, shaitan? Is this just a sort of hearsay that this servant was saying because people think that if they forget something, it's shaitan who makes them forget things? Or there is a reality in it. The servant says, shaitan made me to forget. This sort of statement has been repeated in the Quran in Surah Yusuf as well, isn't it? When Yusuf told to his cellmate that قال اذكرني عند ربك, make a mention of me with your Lord. فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربه. Shaitan made him forget the mentioning of Yusuf to his Lord, to his master. فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربه فلبث في السجن بضع سنين. So he stayed in the prison for some years because shaitan made that cellmate to forget to mention Yusuf to his master, who was the king. He was serving the king, of course, this cellmate. Of course, some exegetes have said that Ansahu shaitan dhikra rabbi means shaitan made Yusuf to forget the remembrance of his Lord. He relied on someone else, and therefore he stayed in cell. This is, of course, farthest from the reality. And it doesn't go with the context of the verse as well. So shaitan made the man to forget mention of Yusuf. Now here he says, Ma ansanihu illa shaitan. The servant says, shaitan made me to forget. There Allah says, Ansahu shaitanu dhikra rabbih. Shaitan made him to forget the remembrance of his Lord. So it means there's a truth in it. It's not just a hearsay that people say. Now, does shaitan have such authority, such power to make us forget things? If he can make us forget things, then it means that he has control over us, while we know that shaitan has no control over us. And in very explicit verse in Surah Ibrahim alayhi salam, on the day of judgment, when people complain, he says, وَمَا كَانَ لِيَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَن دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. I had no power over you. I just called and you responded. Now, in Surah Sa'd, also we have something which is very, very difficult to explain, and that is what Prophet Ayyub says about what has happened to him. واذكر عبدنا أيوب إذ قال رب إني مسني الشيطان بنصب وعذاب. My Lord, shaitan has touched me. مسني الشيطان has touched me. With nusb is great bereavement and great sorrow, because he had lost everything. He has lost his estate, his family, his wealth, his health, everything he had lost. So there was a sort of sorrow and sadness in him, grief. So shaitan has touched me with grief. Wa azab. Now, azab is pain, of course. So the pain was what he felt in his body. So here, what Ayub is saying is that shaitan had some control. First of all, he hits him with great grief and great pain. It means that shaitan made me to become ill like this. Now, is shaitan capable of doing that? The explanation for this by exegetes differ, of course. However, one thing which many exegetes have alluded to is this. In these verses, we will come to Ayub later on, inshallah. In these verses, Ansanihu shaitan or Ansahu shaitan dhikra rabbih. Shaitan made them forget. It doesn't mean that it erased it from their memory directly. What shaitan does is, as it mentioned in the Quran, that he actually makes our ambitions, our desires to look very great for us. And by looking at our ambitions, we forget the purpose of our life, we forget akhirah, we forget such things. So, shaitan doesn't make us forget akhirah. By making our ambitions and our desires so attractive for us, this is the call, isn't it? We forget them. And therefore, what shaitan does, shaitan, by bringing unimportant things to our attention in the strongest way, make us to forget those things which are important. Dhikr al-akhirah. It's shaitan who makes us forget the dhikr of akhirah. However, not directly, he cannot interfere with our memory. He can interfere with our desires, our ambitions, and makes them important for us. يَعِدُهُمْ وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ. Shaitan promises them. Shaitan puts them into great ambitions. وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ إِلَّا غُرُورًا. But what he is promising them is just a delusion. So, by doing that, we forget important things. That man coming out of his prison, going to the palace again, seeing women, seeing the glamour of the palace and everything, was so engaged and occupied with it that forgot about Yusuf. Of course, how could a person forget about such an important thing? Yusuf, the cellmate, that very important person who actually interpreted his dream, now in prison, he comes out, he forgets about it. How? By actually making those unimportant things so important for him that he's so immersed and attracted that forgets about it. Here, maybe this man, the servant, was so thoughtful or imaginational about when he goes back what to do or how they actually get out of this situation. So he forgot about that great miracle that he saw. And he actually attributes it to shaitan. Shaitan made me to forget it. Now, this probably is the best explanation of shaitan making people forgetting things. However, what about Prophet Ayub alayhi salam? إِنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الشَّيْطَانُ بِنُصْبٍ وَعَذَابٍ. Now here we are talking about a prophet. In this case, of course, we are not talking about a prophet, except if we say that he was Yusha ibn Nun, that some exegetes have said, and again they have actually fallen into the trouble of explaining how shaitan can interfere with a prophet, making him forget things. But with the case of Ayub alayhi salam, we are talking about a prophet. And prophets, we know that shaitan can never get close to them. إِلَّا عِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. I have no control over mukhlasin. Now, the explanation there is that we know the story of Ayub was very strange story. And that was Allah had given Ayub so much in wealth, in family, in property, in health, in strength. He was the ruler of a city and very rich person, very good position, but strongly thankful and grateful to the Lord. So he never forgot to appreciate what Allah had given him. Usually when people are given these things, they do not appreciate, they forget. The problem with human being is that if Allah gives them, they forget him. If he doesn't give them, they are disappointed from him, isn't it? And they say, why Allah doesn't do these things to us? So Allah doesn't know what to do with us. لا يسأم الإنسان من دعاء الخير وإن مسه الشر فيئوس قنوط. Always ask for good, and if we give them good, they forget me. If I don't give them good, they are so disappointed and sorrowful, they don't know what to do. So it's always like this. But Ayub was an outstandingly different person. No matter how much Allah gave him, he became more appreciative, like people in paradise. Why in paradise the pleasure is so commendable, the pleasures of paradise, and Allah has actually commended those pleasures given to the people, because the more the pleasure is given in paradise, the more appreciative people will become. Unlike this world, the more forgetful they will become. Now, Ayub was very different, became more and more appreciative. Now, Shaitan actually tried to somehow in a sense challenge Allah. Allah was, of course, very proud of Ayub, in our language, proud of Ayub. Now, Shaitan said, I know this servant, I have no way to go close to him. But you know why he is so appreciative? Because you have given him whatever he wants. If you take him things, then, for example, if you take his wealth, he would not be appreciative and he would complain. And Ayub, as a prophet, knew about this sort of jealousy of Shaitan, that jealousy which came and corrupted everything for him. And in a sense, of course, Allah is not going to listen to Shaitan, but in a sense, Allah wanted to raise the level of Ayub from that appreciative prophet to a prophet which was much higher than the state in which he was. So what he did, not listening to, of course, Shaitan, whatever Shaitan was doing was in favor of Ayub. Because although Ayub was going to suffer by all those instigations of Shaitan, however, his level was going to be raised. So Allah said, no problem. I take his wealth, and you see how he will be appreciative. And suddenly, overnight, everything he had was ruined. And his position was taken away from him in the city. He was no more the ruler. And Shaitan said, well, of course, he is still appreciative and thankful. However, what if his family, he had many children, probably 12 sons or something like that, and a very, very closely loving family. Allah said, okay, I'll take that from him as well. And something happened, his sons all were killed in a battle or in something else. And then Shaitan said, well, of course, he is still appreciative and thankful, but what about the health you have given in his body, the strength that he has? He still have that. And Allah said, I will take that from him as well, and you will see how appreciative he is. And we know that he was afflicted by a type of disease that the people left him in a cave. They didn't want to go and meet him. Only his wife used to go and visit him and take food for him. So you can see from that place where he was, now he's left in a cave, ill and isolated, no one visiting him except his wife, no one giving him anything. Now, still in that state, he was appreciative. Here, the sort of whisper with the Lord, this is not complaint. complaint in the sense that I'm unhappy with what you do. It's that type of complaining to Allah which is commendable. As Ya'qub says, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I only complain my grief to Allah. Meaning that I say, Ya Allah, I have no one but you. And you see my situation. Not that I am unhappy, not that I'm not satisfied with what you rule. In fact, if you are not satisfied by what Allah rules, it shows the extent of our ignorance, isn't it? Because we think that our rule is better than rule of Allah. Our judgment is better than judgment of Allah. And it's never befitting a prophet to think like that. That, Ya Allah, you see what you are doing to me? This is complaint. You see what you are doing to me? Why are you doing this to me? Now, this is the complaint which does not befit anyone, especially a prophet. But this type of complaint, Ya Allah, I have no one but you. And you see my situation. And if you think that it is better, you can change it. You can change it, but absolutely what you have decided is the right thing. As I said, if we think that we are in a situation that Allah could have made a better situation for us, or if we were in charge, we could have made the situation better, it is out of utter ignorance, because we are comparing our limited, tiny knowledge and wisdom with the unlimited knowledge and wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there, what Ayub said, knowing all these, knowing this sort of test and trial, which was there to actually show the position of Ayub with Allah to Shaitan, because Shaitan was actually imagining all these things. That's why he said, إِنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الشَّيْطَانُ بِنُصْبٍ وَعَذَابٍ, the pain. Some editors have said here that he was actually somehow becoming unhappy of his situation, that nusb, that sorrow and grief. And he was saying that Shaitan is coming to me to make me like that, but I don't think that is the case. And of course, after going through all these trials, then Allah says, "Urkud birajlika hadha mughtasalun baridun wa sharab." Now, look what I do with you. You went through all these pains. I have raised your level. You have come so close now. Now I give you whatever I taken away from you. First of all, there's a spring. In the cave, a spring, Allah made a spring to gush out. Wash yourself, all your disease will go. وَوَهَبْنَا أَهْلَهُ وَمِثْلَهُمْ مَعَهُمْ. We gave him his family back. How? Many say that his sons came back to life. That is one of the examples of dead coming back to life. وَمِثْلَهُمْ مَعَهُمْ. And twice as that, the family grew more. And what at the end Allah says about Ayub is, this is of course the level that Ayub reached that he didn't have before. He was very, very appreciative, very grateful. But this description he didn't have. Inna wajadnahu sabiran. We found him patient. Ni'mal abd. What a good servant. You see, Allah doesn't give such compliment to anyone. But after Ayub, after going through all these tribulations, then Allah said, oh, what a good servant. What a good abd. Ni'mal abd. Innahu awwab. He oft returned to me. He did not turn to anyone. In his wealth, in his happy days, in his discomfort, in his unhappy days, he never turned to anyone. He just came back to me. Ni'mal abd. Innahu awwab. So what is meant there by Shaitan coming to him probably means this. Otherwise, if you want really to say that Shaitan has power over someone like prophets, we know that in many, many other verses of the Quran, this is denied. Shaitan can never approach. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan. You never have power over my servants. Or إنه ليس له سلطان على الذين آمنوا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. He has no power over those who believe and rely on the Lord. So how could he get close to Ayub in any sense? Anyhow, let's come back to this story. Do you see? let me tell you one thing. When you took shelter at that rock, indeed I forgot about the fish. And none but Shaitan made me forget to mention it, and it made its way into the sea in an amazing manner. Now, the sign was made. قَالَ ذَلِكَ مَا كُنَّا نَبْغِي. That is where we were looking for. The man is there. We should have stayed there. But now they had rushed, they have run away, they have come, they don't know where they are, where are they, and where is that rock? They cannot find it. It was in the wilderness. So, فَارْتَدَّ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمَا قَصَصًا. They returned, retracing their footsteps, finding signs. Did we come from this place? Did we come from that route? And after a fashion, they found there the rock. When they came to the rock again, in the first time, they didn't find any person. When they came to the rock again, after being reminded of the sign, فَوَجَدَا عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. Three very important attributes here are attached to this man. They found abdan min ibadina. He was an abd from among our ibad. Ibadina. Now, as I said before, to be abd of Allah, or sort of bound to Allah, we are bound to Allah in two ways. Abd is someone who's bound to the master. So, to be bound to Allah has two meanings. There's a general meaning to it, and there's a special meaning to it. The general meaning is that everything in this world is bound to Allah. So everything is abd. In kullu man fis samawati wal ard illa at ar-rahmana abda. Nothing in the heavens and the earth is there except they are bound to Allah, abd. So Shaitan is Abdullah, we are Abdullah, and the Prophet, peace be on him, is Abdullah. In this sense, everything, the plants, the animals, are all Ibadullah. They are bound to Allah. This is, when we are talking in general sense, the relationship of things existentially to Allah. Then there is another relationship, and that is a voluntary boundship, or a voluntary, when someone voluntarily bounds himself to Allah or herself to Allah. And that is obedience. When we obey Allah, we become His abd. Because we acknowledge Him as our master. If you acknowledge someone as your master, you obey. So, when someone obeys continuously, not on and off. I mean, we on and off obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We obey in certain things, we do not obey in other things. For example, he commands us that we have to have absolute tawakkul on Him. Well, we cannot have it. We can pray, we can fast, but absolute tawakkul. He commands us that we have to be pleased with whatever He does. Absolutely. We cannot do it. It's not in our control, okay? So we are not totally abd. We are partially abd. But there are certain people who are totally abd of Allah, pleased with His pleasure, pleased with His rulings, obeying Him in every instance, whatever He says. Now, the physical things may be easy, but things which pertain to heart are difficult, like tawakkul, like rida, like these things. Now, these people who are totally bound to Allah in a sense, they are ibad of a second degree. Second degree in the sense that after being ibad in the first degree of existential bound to Allah, they are ibad in their hearts. Their hearts are also bound to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one quality of this man. This was one of our ibad, one of those who had complete voluntarily bound to me. فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. And this is probably the highest level of spirituality that a person can attain. And whatever we, for example, testify about the Prophet, peace be on him, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. This abd is more important than to be Rasul. Being a bondsman of Allah is more important than to be a messenger. Of course, Allah only chooses his messengers from among these people. Now, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِّنْ عِبَادِنَا. The second thing, آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا. We had given him mercy from ourselves. Granted a mercy from ourselves. رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا. Now, this rahmah is certainly different from rahmah received by everyone. This rahmah is something which, after you become an abd, you receive it. Allah makes you to enter into that mercy. What he does to us in paradise. In the Quran, in several occasions, Allah says that, why I want to take these people to paradise? Because I want them to enter in my mercy. لِيُدْخِلَ اللَّهُ فِي رَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. And this mercy is so pleasurable. It gives you knowledge, it gives you wisdom. You see, what is mercy of Allah? He has given you life, isn't it? He has given you your sustenance. He has given you your family. He has given you attention. All these are rahmah. However, there are certain rahmah that you are deprived of. We are deprived of. Certain type of rahmah. Like wisdom, like knowledge, like closeness to Allah, like certain things that we don't know. Inshallah, after going through this life and entering paradise, these things are given to us. However, there are certain people who are given this in the world here. Not, of course, at a degree in paradise, because that has to come yet, but something which makes them very different from others. Like, for example, وَلُوطًا, about Lut. آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. We gave him knowledge and wisdom. Lut. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ تَعْمَلُ الْخَبَائِثِ إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمَ سَوْءٍ فَاسِقِينَ. And we saved him from a people who were so evil and so transgressors. وَأَدْخَلْنَاهُ فِي رَحْمَتِنَا. And we made him enter into our mercy. What is that? We don't know. What mercy is that? We have not experienced it. وإسماعيل واليسع وذا الكفل كل من الصالحين ومن الصابرين. Mention Ismail واليسع وذا الكفل, all from good people, honorable people. وَأَدْخَلْنَاهُمْ فِي رَحْمَتِنَا. We made them enter into our mercy. So that is a different mercy. That's a higher level of mercy than what we are given. That mercy which is only for those who have completely surrendered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here, some of that mercy was given to that man. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا. We had given him some mercy from ourselves. This mercy from ourselves means something which others are not aware of it, of this mercy. We really don't know what is mercy of God. Yet we don't know. Inshallah, on the Day of Judgment, we will realize what is the mercy of Allah. We have in Hadith, if you divide Allah's mercy to 100 parts, only one part has appeared in this world. 99 part is going to appear in the Day of Judgment. What is that mercy which is going to appear? How are we going to be included in that mercy? Of course, some are deprived of it because of their turning away. But what is it? How are we going to be included in that mercy? We don't know. We yet have to wait and see. There are so much excitement ahead of us. I assure you, there are so much excitements ahead of us that we should be so eager to go and see, inshallah. Anyhow, آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. And also, we had taught him some knowledge from our own, مِنْ لَدُنَّا. Okay, this we cut here, and inshallah we'll discuss this next week. So 3 things Allah had given him. First of all, he was 3 attributes he gives him here. He was abdan min ibadina, one of the bondsmen. And he was given a rahmah, a mercy which is unknown to us, and also a knowledge from Allah, which of course that knowledge is explained in the story of Musa. With that man, inshallah, we will continue next week. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahir.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. So we have about 15 minutes to continue the discussion, clarify any issues. Yeah, ma'am.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. I mean, in the Quran it says those who take interest are also being touched by shaitan. What does that mean?
Those who take what?
Interest. Yeah, they are like touched by shaitan. So how do you explain that?
That shaitan is when people are possessed by jinn, because of course the jinn are shaitan as well, okay? That is different from whisperings of shaitan. لا يقوم إلا كما يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. Those who take riba do not actually stand and do not wake, except like those who are hit by shaitan, and shaitan has made them sort of losing their balance. يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. Just like those who are possessed by jinn. And those who are possessed by jinn, they go into fits of unconsciousness, into fits of sort of involuntary convulsion and such things. It says that those who take riba in barzakh, they will be like that. They don't realize it now. The reality of their act would make them to become like that, convulsive and always losing consciousness and such things. They are going to be like that. So the possession of jinn is a different issue completely. It's different from shaitan coming and whispering and deceiving people.
Thank you. Sisters? Any sisters? No? Brother? Oh, yeah, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. You mentioned in that first verse we looked at was they forget their fish. That means both Musa and the servant. So how do we explain Prophet Musa forgetting? And is there anything?
Well, prophets do forget things, of course. They are human beings. It's not a sin. And this is one example, isn't it? So if anyone says that prophets do not forget anything at all, this is an example that, yes, they would do forget.
But this is not where shaitan is involved, or...
No. As I said, forgetfulness of shaitan is when he actually makes things makes our ambition so important that we forget important things. Here, of course, having a food was not important for Musa. What was important for him was to find that man. So his forgetfulness was not a result of ambitions and desires coming forth and making him forget this thing. It was because it was not very important.
Thank you. Sisters? Yeah.
When calamities befall us, and we try to kind of deal with them and try and understand, okay, be patient through the calamities. Sometimes there's this feeling in our heart that it could be caused by us, right? And I just, my own situation, we kind of think, okay, is this because of something I did or something that's coming from Allah? And you try and kind of deal with the situation. So the unsettling feeling you get in your heart, or that deep regret, you think, okay, because this is something I did. I'm just trying to see how that marries up with having that contentment in Allah's will and saying that, okay, this is actually from Allah and I need to just ride it through and, something good will come out of it. So I'm just trying to kind of figure, is there a litmus test to see, okay, was this from Allah or was this an action of my, a consequence of my own action? And how do we still keep that settled feeling throughout that incident?
Well, it's very good to have that feeling of grief due to what we have done. Then, of course, we seek refuge in Allah. Ya Allah, I have done something wrong. I have brought this upon myself. And of course, your judgment is that anyone doing such things should meet these consequences. Your judgment is right. I agree. But now I have no refuge. I have no helper. You help me. You see, this is what exactly means إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I take my sorrow and my grief to Allah. Ya Allah, look, my sons have done this to me. They have taken Yusuf away from me. They have been jealous and all these things. But who can actually give me refuge and help? So we are always in this situation of between two things: the grief of what we have done ourselves and satisfaction with what Allah rules. This is very important. That's why not everyone can do it. That's why only those servants in high level of faith can do this. So whenever we are faced with such thing, which is usually we do, we go and take our sorrow and grief before Allah and say, the only one who can actually take me out of this situation is you. And so I bring my complaint to you, and you help me in this. So by this, we acknowledge our wrongs. We acknowledge that we have put ourselves into trouble. And then we acknowledge that Allah never does wrong to anyone. We acknowledge that He is the only help. And this is how we approach Him. If you remember in Dua Joshan Kabir, for example, what we call after every section, we say that Al-Ghawth, khalisna min al-nar ya Rabbi. Save us from fire. Well, isn't it He who takes us to fire? Who takes us to hell? Why should we say you save us from hell? It means that we are acknowledging, no, we are taking ourselves to hell. You are the one who can save us. And we so plead to you to save us from the consequences of our acts. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Brother? Yeah, yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. It was quite in-depth. Two little things about the Arabic translation. It's different in my translation for some reason. But two words stand out. One is qala araytu. Isn't this word being used in araytu allazi yukazibu bid-din? Yes. But in a different sense. It's not the same meaning.
Yeah, arayta is an expression, means what do you say about? Or how do you think? Or do you see the point? These are the different meanings. This is a very general expression used in many, many different statements. Yeah.
And in the next verse, there is a qasasan. Atharihima qasasan. Now, this word has been used in the Surah of Yusuf, I believe, or Yahya, about Yahya. Kama awhayna ilayka hadha al-Quran.
Yeah, in Surah Yusuf we have that. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص. Qasas, of course, is the plural of qissa, and qissa is to tell a story. Now, when you tell a story, you are actually tracing back the history of something, isn't it? Yeah, you go to, or for example, نحن نقص عليك قصصهم بالحق. We tell their stories. So the original meaning of qassa means to follow footsteps. to follow the traces. So when you tell a story, you are following the footsteps of something which has happened. Here, of course, فَارْتَدْنَا عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمَا قَصَصًا means they went back, tracing back their footsteps. Athar are footsteps, of course. So what's the translation there?
It's actually retracing their footsteps.
Yeah, the same thing.
So it's nothing to do with the story, if you know what I mean.
No, there's nothing to the story. And here, of course, this translation with.
So when it comes as نحن عليك قصص
yeah, that is a different meaning of qasas.
Understand. Shukran. Thank you. The bigger item here is something that we've discussed before, like fate and how much does a role of shaitan in our decisions. So if I now feel the need to smoke, it's not shaitan, it's an imbalance, chemical imbalance in my body. Yes. Right? So if I then have need for 2 houses where I only need 1, that's a chemical imbalance. So it could be down to that. So shaitan does work in different ways. We know that it's been proven to have different ways. I recently saw a movie about the parting of the seas. It's actually still probably in theaters, where the actual event of the water level going down so that people could cross the sea, and then a tsunami comes and washes away the enemy soldiers as such. Because, and it's very well explained.
The film Moses by...
That's the one, yes, yeah. Yes. So that's it. I thought that in this day and age, people would actually cling on to that and then say that, yes, the timing of the event was the key. Not that the water level went down, because I would do that in a tsunami anyway. The water would recede, and then you'd have a tidal. So it's an explainable fact of life, yeah?
Yes.
The thing is, the timing is most important. Maybe God is trying to tell us something there. So with regards to that, now we come back to the story of the fish going away. So if a scientist now finds in the Sinai desert somewhere a point where there is a fish which actually walks back into the water, there you have a scientific explanation for this. So is there concrete evidence that the fish was cooked? Is it told by the in the Tafsir of the Imams afterwards?
As I said, Allama Tabatabai says there's no concrete evidence from the verse that the fish actually was made alive and left. What the verse says is that the fish was somehow dragged away from the shore. And it never says. But I think accepting miracles for us is not a difficult thing. I mean, it's not something to say that Allah cannot do these things. Why should we try to, explain everything which is a miracle? Like, for example, if this is the case, then everyone should be able to do what Moses did. For example, what about that stuff of Musa, stick of Musa becoming a serpent? Yes, you may say scientifically it's possible after a long time, this may be possible. Yeah. But at the time, it was a miracle, anyhow. I mean, it's not something that people can... Actually, miracles are things that people should not be able to do, to be a sign of the prophets. And therefore, those who deny that are, in a way, trying to deny the whole idea of prophethood and the whole idea of connection with God. So why should we go after them? Yeah.
Thank you. Sisters? Any sisters? Brother? Any brother? Zaid? No? Nobody? Yeah.
Was this place of meeting the two seas the source of River Nile?
We don't know. Many different places are mentioned here. As I said, some exegetes have said that it is the land between Persian Gulf and Mediterranean Sea, which is a very strange sort of explanation. Some have said about the source of Nile. We have in the stories that Moses was sent away by Pharaoh to find the source of Nile, which no one had ever found. And in a way, Pharaoh wanted just to get rid of Musa from the palace. And it was on this journey that Musa found that man. But none of them, these are stories actually. We cannot establish them. because the source of Nile for Egyptians was a mystery, actually. The confluence of the two seas and such things. We may say that yes, he was in search for that, and finding that source would have been important. However, the importance here is not given to confluence of the two seas, it's given to the fish and the miracle which happened.
Thank you. Any sisters? No? Any other brother? Neither? No? Thanks, Malad. Thanks very much indeed, Shaykh. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu. We meet inshallah next Sunday?
Inshallah.